Hey guys, it's Leviatross, and welcome to Real Thoughts, the series where I give you my thoughts on the movies I saw this weekend and help give you an idea of whether you'd like to see it yourself or not. This weekend I saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and before I get into it, there won't be any spoilers, so feel free to watch till the end if you haven't seen it yet. And so, getting into it, first off, my expectations, I had seen the previous two Sonic movies, and the first one, I wasn't really excited about it, but I was like, I'll go ahead and see it anyway. And leaving, I just kind of felt like, yeah, this is made for like, obviously it's made for a younger audience, but still, it didn't feel like a movie that's like, it's intended for kids, but it's also enjoyable for adults. The jokes really felt disappointing and just like a bit childish without really being worth seeing for an adult. And so I saw it, saw the first one, a little bit disappointed, saw the second one, and I was like, this is actually pretty good. Like, I liked it more than I was expecting, especially after the first one. And I think it was the scene when they go to like the hideout, like the kind of tavern in the snowy area. That scene kind of like really turned the movie around for me, and I really enjoyed the humor of it a lot more. So when I saw the second Sonic movie, I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. You know, we got Sonic, we got Tails, and like now Knuckles is here. We got like the whole team. I don't really know where they can go from here. Then the end of the movie teases Shadow. I was like, I can't believe I forgot about Shadow. And so I immediately became very excited for this movie. And I have a lot of nostalgia for the Sonic series because Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is like the game of my childhood. And so this movie introducing Shadow, I was like, okay, I'm actually kind of excited for this. And so I was looking forward to it and want to clarify I do have some nostalgia for it and excitement. And then seeing the movie, I felt like this was the best one of the trilogy. Like if you saw the first two, like if you didn't really like the second movie at all, I feel kind of tough recommending this one, but I do think it is better and more enjoyable. But going into it, first off, there's already a lot of like fan service to like the games and references throughout the movies. And a lot of it sometimes like the music that they play will be like a sound effect or like a little jingle from like the previous games. I'm like, oh, I recognize that. And the beginning of the movie, this is all like within the first like 10-15 minutes. But in the beginning of the movie, they're kind of introducing like Shadow and it has like flashbacks and it's playing the song on acoustic guitar. I was like, that song sounds really familiar. I was like, oh, that's Live and Learn from the end of Shadow of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. And so I was like immediately like pretty into the movie. Like I was very excited to see where they go. And yeah, I felt like the movie really like overall it delivered. It kind of gave the fans what they want. And I will say there's maybe like I'll get into kind of like the negatives in a little bit. But overall, I felt like the fan service was definitely there and they have like minor things like, still first 10-15 minutes. They do a race and afterwards they're staying there like tapping their toes. I was like, "Oh, like at the end of the levels and stuff like that." So, I felt very like like more excited than I was expecting throughout the movie. And so, if you're a big fan of the games and the series, like that means something to you in like your like childhood, I think this movie is definitely gonna like satisfy that part of it. Now, to kind of go into the negatives before I continue like talking about how good it is, there are a lot of jokes that just like did not work, or they just kind of feel very cheesy. Where it's like, hey, pop culture reference, and it's like, I guess that qualifies as a joke. And Sonic, he's still like sarcastic, and so some of the jokes is just like him being sarcastic, and that's it, which wasn't like super humorous. But there are also some other jokes that were very surprising and did work like pretty well. And on top of that, like Jim Carrey's in the movie, Dr. Robotnik comes back, and a lot of scenes with Jim Carrey are just so like absurd, like in a silly way. And while watching, it's kind of like, how did this get made? But I'm also like really enjoying it a lot. And there's definitely no one else that could have done those scenes other than Jim Carrey. Like it's basically just him being himself, and it was really weird but very entertaining. And so I really enjoyed the movie. And yeah, overall, like I felt like this is definitely a good, like, really appreciate the fans and the history of the game series. And so I really enjoyed it. And, it definitely sounds like there's going to be more Sonic movies that's kind of making a lot of money, so they're not going to stop. And so I'm still curious and kind of excited to see more of what they do with it. I feel like this one, like, this is like the one I like the most. I kind of feel like it's hard to continue on from here. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm a little wary moving forward, but I am kind of excited and curious to see where it goes. And yeah, I just felt like this is a good like love letter to the fans and something that I enjoyed a lot more than I was expecting. And a lot of it, like if you haven't played the Sonic games before, I don't know if this is really worth seeing. But if you are a fan of the series and the games, then I feel like this is definitely something that you will enjoy. And yeah, uh, I got to the theater. And I was like, it was pretty crowded. Like the movie, like a lot of showings were just like close to sold out. And I got there and I sat down. Like the person next to me was a mom with like her kids and stuff like that. And the opening of the movie, it's playing like the title cards or like the opening credits for like the studios. And it's like the Sega studio or like Sega company intro. And she goes, "Oh, I remember playing those games when I was a kid," and like told me that. And I was like, "Don't talk during that movie." But I was polite. But fortunately, there wasn't a lot of talking throughout the movie. But really enjoyed it. Felt like this is a solid like entry in the series, even though it the first movie still not really a fan of. Second one, I was like, "Oh, that was surprisingly good," and then this one felt like kind of the climax and the peak of the trilogy so far. So I feel like it's going to be hard to top that moving forward. But like I said, I'm curious and excited to see where it goes. And so if you maybe were on the fence about the previous ones, I feel like this one is kind of the best, like I said. And so I think it's definitely worth watching if it's something that you have some interest in. If you didn't like the second one, I feel like it's hard to really recommend this, but I think that's about covers everything. I feel like by now you probably know whether you want to see it or not, and whether what I've said about it so far has like swayed you to one side or the other. But overall, just really enjoyed it as a fan of the games and how much I played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle as a kid. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I know I tend to ramble when it gets to the ending, but if you're still watching, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.